So Kevin Spacey is back. He's starring in The Awakening, a conspiracy thriller, which is fitting because his whole career comeback feels like one. Now, let's be honest. Spacey was accused of some serious things, multiple allegations, reputational wreckage. But here's the part everyone seems to skip. He was acquitted in court on 9 charges. A jury found him not guilty. And yet you'd think he'd robbed the Vatican and kicked a puppy on live TV. He's been exiled longer than some people are sentenced for actual crimes. Meanwhile, just hypothetically, someone else, let's say a real-life public figure, has been found liable for sexual abuse, indicted in multiple jurisdictions, and convicted of serious felonies. But somehow that guy is still headlining rallies, press conferences, and maybe even future inaugurations. Spacey played a fictional president and got blacklisted for years. The real ones, different rules. It's not that I'm defending Spacey. It's that I'm questioning a culture where being accused as an actor is a career death sentence, but being convicted as a politician gets you a merch line and front row seats to history. Make it make sense. Now, confession here, I love the acting of Kevin Spacey. I'm not going to say I love Kevin Spacey. I've never met him. I don't know him. By all accounts, he is a delightful conversationalist and fun to have dinner with. And the people who were his friends and are his friends say he's great at mimicking other people and impressions. Let's move all that aside. I don't know. I'm simply saying I enjoy almost any movie or TV show I've ever seen him in. So just selfishly, I'm glad to see him on his way back. I think as a society around the world, we have to come to grips with varying thresholds of crime. Someone commits mass murder. Okay, let's say they don't ever get to come back. Someone is convicted of felonies that really hurt people. I would argue it makes sense to say, okay, they need to permanently exit the public stage. Perhaps there are exceptions with good cause, but someone accused of a crime has gone to a trial and higher defense, come out, and a jury of peers, in Kevin Spacey's case in Great Britain, found them not guilty. Doesn't mean society can't say, we still hold you in contempt. We don't want to reward you with more commercial contracts, mainstream media thing. But I do think it should be seen as a factor. Did they get a timeout for 6 months, a year, 2? Maybe. But we've had this Me Too movement, which in general I'm very supportive of over the last 5-6 years. A lot of men really got away with being quite abusive to mostly women in the workplace and women who came in contact with them who didn't work for them. In the case of Harvey Weinstein, in the case of Kevin Spacey, it wasn't women, it was men and really boys he was accused of taking advantage of. I'm not saying that society can't have a particular sense of condemnation for that, but it does seem as though there needs to be some consistency. Some people seemingly can get away with anything. Other people, wow, one little rumor, and it seems like their whole career is ruined. Famously here in the United States, Senator Al Franken was seen as making a visual joke regarding a comedian. This was still when he was a comedian, not a senator. And apparently, I guess, pinching people on the butt when there were pictures taken. No hard evidence on that one, but that essentially saw his entire career destroyed. We have other political figures, I won't mention their name, where they have been accused of assaulting dozens of women. One in particular, it wasn't called rape in the final decision, but it was called forcibly having sex, forcing sex on someone against their will, which you can define that any way you want. And that particular person seemingly faced no consequences. So there seems to be very wildly inconsistent rules on how this is enforced. Matt Lauer of the Today Show, Charlie Rose of PBS, essentially never got their reputations back, never got their careers back. I'm not necessarily saying they should. Other people who committed, in some ways, more heinous crimes or allegations, seemingly got slapped on the wrist and no one ever thought about it again. Now, quite often it comes down to, in the case of Matt Lauer or Charlie Rose, all their power came from one major network, NBC or PBS, in which case a big network can say, we don't want the heat, we don't want to lose sponsors, you're gone. What we are seeing these days for people who have their own independent media company, if you have your own podcast and your own YouTube channel and you publish books frequently, you can do whatever you want. Certainly the case of Bill O'Reilly, the conservative commentator and talk show host, former Fox News personality, has gone on to have a successful post-Fox career. He has his own TV show. He has a whole digital empire. He continues to push out books. He continues to make a seven-figure income, in part because he is his own media company. And I'm trying not to be partisan here. Louis C.K., a very famous comedian who was involved in similar controversies, doing widely inappropriate things with women comedians who were a part of his circle, has created his own media empire. He makes movies, stand-up specials, releases them to his fans, does other shows, appears, generates his own bookings and does public appearances, books, etc. Has put together, again, a very nice seven-figure annual income for himself and getting in front of a lot of people. So certainly we as individuals can say, I'm not going to buy that person's book or watch that person's show if they've done something I think is heinous and something that is just beyond the pale. Tricky area is, as a society, for those who are still dependent on gatekeepers, what's the appropriate amount of time out? I don't know. I would love to hear from you if you have some sense. But like Ryan Seacrest, for example, was charged with a lot of allegations, much more serious than some of the people who've seen their entire careers lost. But he owns his own production company and has such strong relationships with so many TV shows and networks and producers, no one ever remembers the allegations about him. So very inconsistent. This sounds like I'm about to give career advice for people who want to do bad things. I'm not. I'm simply pointing out, in the modern world, the only real career protection is you got to be your own media company. You got to own your own podcast. You've got to publish books with different publishers, self-publish. You've got to own your own YouTube channel. You have to control everything because something bad happens, fairly or unfairly, the allegations against you, your whole career can be over. If you control your own output, have your own studio, your own microphone, it does give you a certain level of protection. Again, I'm not saying that because I want you to feel like you have a license to commit crimes or assault people. That's not my message at all. But it is seemingly the message we as a society are sending people that you own your own media company, you can get away with almost anything.